When her twin daughters came into the world, Brenda dreamed of home. She was struck by how isolated she felt in the small but comfortable mobile home she shared with her husband and 5 children. Yes, she was surrounded by neighbors in the little trailer park where she rented space, but none of them knew her background, her traditions, or her language. And she didn't want her children to grow up disconnected from who they were without the benefit of their elders' wisdom, which is why she felt comfortable moving to a metal-roofed homestead in her ancestral motherland, even though the faucet was empty, the shower unusable, and the toilet boarded up. But though Brenda moved back home with a full understanding of the difficulties of life without indoor plumbing, she didn't anticipate that the pickle jars of water she would collect each day would eventually turn her husband's foot the same color as the container's murky contents. The price to be near home was her family's health. And Brenda's story isn't unique. An estimated 2 million people in the United States don't have access to running water, a number that includes 30% of the Navajo Nation's 173,000 residents. No running water is not just an inconvenience, it is often a health hazard. For Brenda, it meant that when her husband injured his foot at work, she had no clean water to wash it and could only watch as the foot first turned red, then bruised, then nearly black. He had gangrene and would need to make the 50-mile journey to the region's nearest medical center. In the arid climate of the Navajo Nation, water is scarce and wells often prohibitively expensive. Even worse, most of the groundwater is contaminated by years of uranium mining. As for central water infrastructure, it ain't coming to the nation's most rural regions anytime soon. Consider this. Brenda lives in an unincorporated community of just over 900 in the reservation's New Mexico flank. The nearest small town is about 10 miles away. Think about it. 10 miles of new pipeline to serve under 1,000 people. For context, the city of Red River, New Mexico spent $1.74 million to construct just 4,500 feet of water line in 2022. In an age where low levels of federal funding mean utility companies must pay the cost of infrastructure improvements through user fees, do you think Central Water is coming to Brenda anytime soon? And sometimes, no water means no income, and no income means no water. A vicious catch-22. For this reason, when Brenda's husband called from the hospital, Brenda had to tell him, "I can't come." Without his weekly paycheck, she couldn't afford gas. And when he was discharged, Brenda knew he would be sleeping on the street. So what's to be done? Well, sadly, until there's more funding for safe, sanitary water, the best we can do is support nonprofits such as Dig Deep, who supply water to off-grid rural families like Brenda. And also lobby Congress to allocate more funding for rural infrastructure improvements, as was done in the 2021 bipartisan infrastructure bill. As for Brenda, it was Dig Deep who showed up at Brenda's door a day after her husband was discharged, with a truck carrying 3,500 gallons of drinking water. The first thing Brenda did, boil water to make tamales that she then sold in town for gas money. Today, her husband is home safe and Brenda has running water. Thanks again to Dig Deep, which came back a month later to install a large water cistern on her property. Now, whenever she flushes the toilet, Brenda smiles.